Well, hi guys.
Hello.
What's
I
up?
guess welcome to the first episode of SappyCast. I guess should we just do a quick introduction then?
Yeah.
All right. You want to start first, Cole?
Yeah. So I'm Cole.
All right.
Yeah. I have no movie experience. I don't even really watch a lot of movies. I'm the guy they brought on for the normal consumer perspective, not the critics perspective.
AKA all of us.
Yep.
I guess I'm Ryan. Pretty much very similar. Just I guess pretty much all of us are
You
semi
guys are
into
supposed to be the
movies
experts.
and just wanted to start a podcast on talking about it, looking into more detail on some of the movies that we pick and going into more depth. So, yeah.
My name's Josh, and I watch a lot of foreign movies, probably a lot more than these two. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's usually what I look into and stuff like that. And also horror movies along
Ooh,
with that as
spooky.
well. Documentaries too. So
Yeah. So just trying to, I guess, start a new little fun thing for us. Looking into movies all with different viewpoints and all that, and seeing maybe getting some good old discussions
Mhm.
going.
Ryan, do you want to say like what
So-
kind of movies you normally watch?
I guess pretty much I try to watch anything. I'm very much into horror and I guess independent film now. This year I tried to do a thing where I tried to watch and get into more foreign films. So I was into that a little more recently.
Okay.
And watched a lot of Japanese films this past year.
Oh, Japanese film.
Got some hentai going on.
Yeah, that's what I was implying. That's what I was going for over there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just watch a lot of superhero movies. I like stuff like that. I also like watching weeb movies. I like Japanese anime movies. Those are really good. And then anything else that just comes out in movie theaters that I think I want to watch. Nothing in particular. I usually don't watch horror though, because it's really spooky.
Ooh. So hopefully all of us try to get something new
Something
out of
it.
this.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And I guess the layout of the podcast is pretty much kind of how we said. The first half would be very much independent. Talking about news articles maybe that came out of the week that are more topical. Movies that we saw this week that we aren't talking about on the main bulk of the podcast. And then getting into the main part, which is one of us picks a movie each week and we all just have a little discussion on it and give our viewpoints and all that on that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What's our first article?
So
what are we talking about first?
yeah, so do we want to move forward with that? Did you guys look at the Scorsese Marvel thing that's going on?
I looked into it.
yeah, Cole did. I looked into the horror movie list.
You looked into the movie list?
Yeah.
And Cole, you said you didn't look into the movie list.
I looked at it a little bit. I have it pulled up here.
Okay, yeah, and I got
didn't
the
read
top
all
10.
100 though, because it was spooky even to look at the list of movies. So that's how much I'm not into horror.
Too scary.
It's very spooky.
They have images.
No, yeah,
in there. It's scary.
I wrote down the top 10 list right here, and I'm assuming probably I'm wondering if all of these are ones that we've seen. I've only not seen Eyes Without a Face yet out of the top 10 list.
Oh, out of the top 10. Okay.
Out of the top 10 list, yeah. I did not look through I just skimmed through most of the 100.
Yeah. When I was looking through this, I was like quietly making a list of things that I've wanted to see.
Yeah.
That I've never have seen, or B, like looked interesting to me.
What were some of
them,
yours?
Number 90, The Leopard Man, was my first one.
Oh yeah.
And then the number 87, Mask of the Red Death.
Yeah.
It's like a play style. I thought that was pretty interesting. One of the ones that I was pretty like that I was interested in mainly because it was so low on the list was Antichrist, number 85.
Have you not seen that?
I have seen
Yeah.
Antichrist. It's a really strange horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, you know, that's just how it was written. It's
Is it
part of
more weird
the
than scary?
I think
It's
to someone who likes horror movies, it would be really strange, but to someone who is like who like goes in and likes sort of more surreal type movies,
Oh,
they'd
okay.
be pretty all right
mm-hmm.
with it.
It's
The
a
main
very. Oh, you go.
the main thing is that it's part of a it goes along a three-part line of movies, three different movies that the same director made. So I don't know if you've seen Nymphomaniac at
I've heard
all.
of
Two
That
that.
came out
parts.
I've
the
seen
two
And then
part
there's
commercials.
it came out a
Melancholia.
couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's technically part of the same film trilogy thing by the same director. But yeah, I don't know. If you like those kind of movies, I'd say go ahead and watch it. But
Mm-hmm.
Am I
I don't
gonna get
know.
jump scared, or is it more of like a
It's not very jump scare.
like a
It's more of just
creepy atmospheric
like a
horror,
creepy type
but
thing.
with
Yeah.
the surrealism? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lars von Trier in general is just to me he's a very hit or miss when it comes to his movies because I hated both Nymphomaniacs and
Yeah.
Antichrist. It took me 2 watches to finally get through because it was kind of how you put it. It's different. It's one of the more disturbing films I've seen in just the sense of the atmosphere building and plot driven that it has, but it's a good movie. It's probably my only one out of his I like. Because I watched, did you see House That Jack Built, which came out last year, Josh?
I have not, no. But I have seen Melancholia, which is
Yeah.
the first one in that trilogy of
Mm-hmm.
films that he
And that
did.
one's fine. I didn't like that. I was indifferent on that one more.
Mm-hmm.
But Antichrist was, did you think it should have been rated higher or?
I honestly think it should have been rated a little higher than what it was. If you look at the top 100 of this list, it's
Mm-hmm.
basically like those horror movies that you always hear about, you know, where it's like, oh yeah, these you have to see these horror movies, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, these are
Must watch
horror
before you
movies that
die
are
or
really
whatever.
yeah, and I mean that this is an IndieWire article, so obviously there's like
It's
that's
going to be
what
that
it's most
more.
likely going to be.
Mm-hmm.
One that was super surprising to me was the audition, that number 13 by Takahashi Miike.
I have
That
not
was
seen
super
that one.
interesting because like I don't know, a lot of Americans don't really like foreign horror films.
Why do you think that
And
is?
so seeing that because I mean I mean I'm assuming there's a lot of different themes in foreign horror films that come out compared to like older horror films made in the United States. Like right now horror films in the United States aren't that great because they're not really like horrifying.
They're very formulaic at the point. At the
Yeah,
Yeah,
moment.
they're made to sell. They're
they're
not made to be
scary.
scary.
They're not like horrifying
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
the title suggests. So, uh different themes come out in foreign horror films, I feel, and some of that doesn't really translate well to like an American audience. Um like an example would be I Saw the Devil. Have
Ooh.
any of you seen
I was
Oh,
that?
I've seen
surprised
that.
that one was
I've
on
seen
there,
that.
actually.
So that's on this list,
Mm-hmm.
and when I I watched this movie with another group of people, and they were very turned off by it.
Really?
Yeah, even though it's generally thought of as a good movie,
Yeah.
they were very turned off by it just because of the themes of the movie.
Interesting.
The overarching kind of themes
Just not
of
what
the
they're
movie.
used
And
to,
so,
maybe. Yeah.
yeah, not what they're used to, and just like that's not really seen a whole lot anymore. Like there's not really, in terms of horror films and like psychological horror films, it's not like anything we make anymore kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
And if they are
I
made, they're
thought
not
those
popular
are
over here.
those are just some things that I saw that were interesting along this list, and
Yeah.
just some
Yeah.
things to think about. I mean, the top 10 is,
Pretty
you
much.
gotta see these. The only thing maybe is I would move the original thing, or not the original thing, I'm sorry, the original Halloween down a little bit. I think the original Halloween is a good horror movie. I just think that something as campy as the original Halloween probably would be under something like Psycho or Eyes Without a Face.
Especially since Psycho is mostly influential to Halloween itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Being,
this is
the
definitely
second.
It's definitely a
slasher
top
film.
100 list for American viewers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Very
like
much
you
so.
said, it's like an all-time classic favorite that you should watch before you die, but it's not necessarily
Mhm.
the best ever.
Yeah. I was surprised that I saw the two newer ones that were on there were last year's Suspiria and The Witch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think The Witch was Suspiria, the remake, which is very good if you haven't seen that. It was like 91. And I was surprised that they would even just place, last year to 4 years ago on a top 100 list. But obviously both of those are extremely good too, so kind of works. But yeah, since it's October, probably going to be watching some more.
Oh yeah, I've got my
Halloween
spooky movie
movies.
picked out. All right.
You do?
Definitely
Mhm.
spooky
Awesome.
time.
Great. And then yeah, I guess the other topic we had was the Scorsese and Marvel.
Okay. Do you wanna go through and like read his quote of what he said, so we get context for what we're
I don't have
about?
the quote.
Pull it up, Jamie. It's a
Pull it
Joe
up,
Rogan
Jamie.
podcast.
What
Meme.
was it? Pretty much, yeah, I actually have it pulled up. Essentially, Martin Scorsese in an interview with, I believe it was Empire, for his rounds for the Irishman release that's next month, I believe.
Mhm.
Someone just asked him what he thought about Marvel films in general, and I guess for quote, it was, "That's not cinema." The closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with the actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. So, essentially just conveying that it's more...
He thought
Oh,
it
I
was
get it,
less
would be-
about the personal stories and more about the superhero and what
Mhm.
they were doing.
It's
I
more
assume
about
is
the
what he's.
set pieces and...
We can't hear
sorry.
whatever that was. Yeah.
Yeah, car just honked. More of the set pieces and just the experience, I guess, of being there, and then mostly just forgetting about it. And
I think that's a good
day.
point to talk on. Is like what he felt when he was in there. Is I don't think he liked Marvel. That's the thing.
Oh.
I felt that it was pretty emotionally engaging. Like I never felt that I was watching like when I get that feeling a lot. Actually, when I watch DC movies, because DC movies, I feel like there's no personal connection to the actual like alter ego characters. Where in Marvel, when I'm watching like a Marvel movie, I actually care about like who's behind the mask with Captain America and like what their personal relationships and stuff like that. So it's not like I'm watching just like Superman go punch some stuff. I'm watching drama unfold and there's stuff that's happening.
And it should be.
I think Scorsese just doesn't like Marvel. Like he doesn't have an emotional attachment at all.
And he was an original, was right off the bat a producer of The Joker that just came out.
Producer for what?
He was a producer for it, but his name was not on the end credit list though. So
Yeah.
something happened in between there, but he was originally a producer, I remember. But I guess that's an interesting point. It's very different from obviously the movies he's made, which are very character driven, deep personal stories.
Yeah.
Not always.
And I get what he means,
people.
because it's not like you're gonna get like the most riveting drama performance from something like that, because it's not the focus. The focus is, you know, action and stuff exploding and like crazy stuff happening. It's like a power fantasy. Like you're supposed to care about the power dynamic of what's happening and like defeating a big boss. You're not supposed to care about the drama unfolding between superheroes and stuff like that. That's more of like if you've seen The Boys on Amazon Prime, or like any other like breakdown or caricature of like a superhero movie, you're gonna get stuff like that. Those are actually my favorite superhero movies, is where they take the normal superhero dynamic and then they break down the goods and the bads. Like Watchmen was like that, where they had the superheroes, but the real main focus was the bad parts about being a superhero and how that affected the drama of it. So yeah,
I would say for the comic, not maybe so much the
movie. I mean,
but... so how do you feel about Will Smith's Hancock?
Ooh, the greatest of Will Smith
the
movies.
Real question.
That's actually a really good question from somebody that likes superhero movies. I think it. I mean, I haven't seen that movie in a really long time, but I think it was done pretty badly. Because it wasn't nearly like a Scorsese level of like the drama unfolding between a superhero. Like they try to do like, what if the average Joe had superhero like powers, but like, and then I think the I mean, I haven't seen this in a long time. I think the weird part about it was like he was still trying to like hide the fact that he was a superhero. He wasn't like if I had superpowers, like I'd be like all over the place. Like I would be like trying to be like Superman. Like I'd be like up front trying to save people. But he was just like, I gotta pay rent, and then he would just also happen to have superpowers. Like he still like went to his normal job, and he was like, oh fuck, this inconveniences me that I'm like super strong. It's just dumb. It was just like, go save somebody and then like make $1 million, or like go be a vigilante. Like don't just like go work at like a gas station job and pay rent. You know.
But it's Will Smith. So
yeah, it was Will Smith playing Will Smith in
with superpowers.
Yeah, one of my favorite cinematic scenes ever though is a scene they cut from that film where he tries to have sex with like a normal person, and then apparently his superpowers grant him the ability to like enlarge his cock by like 12 feet, and like he just can't have sex with normal people. So like he gets excited by this woman who comes over to his place, and then he like pulls his pants down and like a fucking 12-foot dong just flops out like an elephant trunk, and he's like, whoa.
I don't think that's a real scene.
Look it up. Unless I'm gonna dream to that. But no. But then later on in the movie,
I think they cut that for a reason.
But then later on in the movie, it turns out that the only person he can have sex with is the other woman with superpowers, because her vagina is also a super vagina. So that was my favorite part about that dynamic.
I think Will Smith must have wrote that.
Will Smith wrote that part.
He slipped a post-it note underneath the writer's door.
He was like, okay, I'll do this shitty movie, but I have to have a 12-foot dong.
Like, all right, you can cut my scene as long as Jaden Smith gets to do Neo Yokio.
Neo Yokio and After Earth.
I have some people that will die for Neo Yokio. That anime.
Neo Yokio is good.
That's Joe. Yeah, it was Josh. I forgot. It was Josh was the one that would die for it.
Yeah, Neo Yokio is good. If like Neo Yokio as an anime is good, I love it.
But it's dubbed, right? It's an English anime.
It's an English. Well, I mean, it's an all English cast. So
it's Jude Law as a robot.
It's like Jude Law and Jaden Smith. Neo Yokio is really good. Yeah. I enjoy Neo Yokio.
I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't shit on it. But the reason I didn't see it was because it looks like garbage.
It is.
It looks like absolute trash. But it's like,
is the story good? Like, what compels you to keep clicking the next button when you're watching that?
It's literally like, I don't know. It's a whirlwind of emotions when you watch Neo Yokio. Like,
truly a riveting performance from Jaden Smith.
No, it's not like it's riveting or anything, or like a really good story.
You just couldn't put it down.
Like that. It's like It's like why people watch South Park.
It was like a funny.
I'm not watching South Park for like the riveting story of Cartman getting a anal probe. I'm watching it because it's like funny.
So it was a
and
comedy,
just like the humor. Yeah, it's. I would say it's
but it
a
wasn't
more
like
of
a
a
like
comedic
South
anime.
Park's like more of like a skit thing. That did it have a continuous plot?
It had a continuous plot that fit the show and like what they were trying to go with the show.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not watching Neo Yokio for for the plot.
Okay,
Like
so you're watching it for
I'm
like
literally
the
watching
one
it
or
for
two
just like
jokes.
the one or two jokes that are funny and that I enjoy. Like I don't know, I just thought it was good. I
I'll
thought
have
Neo
to.
Yokio was good.
I mean, I would say I would try to watch it, but it looks like garbage, so I'm probably not going to do that.
Neo Yokio
Better than
best
Evangelion?
best anime of 2015
Wow.
or 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think Sword Art Online came out somewhere around in there, so we're going to have to really look at that.
I don't know if I can just say it was good. Since
What
when
has
we
Jaden
watched
Smith in
it,
it?
it was a very... No, yeah, it's gone.
The time we watched it, we watched almost the entire series through in one day.
How many episodes
Yeah.
is this?
And that's why I don't know if I can say it was a...
12.
12,
Okay,
I
so it's like
believe.
you can do it in one
It's
sitting if
on
you really want to.
Netflix,
Oh, yeah.
I know it's on Netflix. Of course it is. Netflix is the best anime in
Yeah,
America.
they got the best anime. Shameless
Wow,
plug for Violet
Castlevania.
Evergarden.
Yep, sponsored by Netflix. Not sponsored by
Castlevania.
Netflix, actually. Can't say that.
I wish we were
We are
sponsored
in
by
fact not
Netflix.
sponsored by Netflix.
Who's our sponsor today?
Oh, Honey,
G Fuel.
G Fuel,
Oh, Honey
Gamer
and G Fuel.
on the
Wow.
movie podcast.
God
Yeah.
damn it.
Actually sponsored.
We're talking about Ready Player One today. Gaming only.
Oh god,
Gaming
let's not.
only podcast.
Did you see it? Have you guys, I guess, seen Ready Player One?
Oh yeah, I
No.
watch that every day when I get sad.
So every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Oh god.
Uh-huh.
So do you like it?
I actually really like that movie. I think because
Okay.
I'm the superhero movie guy, so I like the power fantasies. I like the escapism. I like to think that one day in the future, it's going to be like that where we can plug in and play that game. I also think I think it played an important role in our society of introducing the concept of VR in the everyday life and how we should deal with it.
We live in a society.
We live in a society where VR is going to be a real thing one day.
VR
I'm telling you guys,
VR
we're going to have
society.
VR sex robots and our population is going to plummet. Okay, we need to think about
We
these
already
things.
have that now.
In
We already
Japan,
have that now.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's happening. Okay, we need to
It's
deal with it once it
happening.
hits the real world. Okay,
2021,
America,
it's happening.
The real world.
and that's what Ready Player One did for American audiences. That's what I'm saying. It introduces the concept where every single day you're going to live in a trailer park with your mom and pa, and you're going to play and you're going to fight over your VR gloves. And that's going to happen, and you're going to
Nice.
marry a sex robot, and you're not going to have kids.
I believe it. I think Steven Spielberg is telling the future.
Yeah, I
in
think
Ready
it's something
Player
we need
One.
to discuss and talk about. I think that's whether or not you liked, the normal movie shebang stuff, the cinematography, the acting, the plot. It's about the moral message that Ready Player One gives the American audience. Okay, what
I
should
like
we
it. I'm
do
on this
when the
wave. I'm
sex
hopping on
robots
this
rise
wave.
up? That's what he was really trying to say in that.
Gamers, rise up.
Yep, that's what he was trying
with
to
your
say.
sex robots.
That's getting all cut
in
out.
VR.
Nope, that's
getting
all
cut
in. That's
out.
all in.
That's staying. That's a solid 2 minutes of content.
Good god.
Ryan will release like the 5 minutes of actual real podcast, and then on my
It's just
side
jump-
channel, I'll release the 4 hours of uncut footage, and we'll all
It's
get
jump
banned.
cuts everywhere. It's
director's
just like,
cut.
you guys see
It's
a
just
movie?
Ryan. It's just
Yes.
Ryan talking. It's just like I liked this, and then it's 5 minutes of silence. And
I
it's
like
like,
this. This
Yep.
was good.
So why don't we talk about the pick?
Do we want to
Pick.
move on to Train to Busan?
I think we should.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I'm good with that. So I guess, Josh, since you picked it, do you want to give the
Yes.
little summary of the movie?
First
Yeah, I'll
thing,
give you a
who's your
little summary.
waifu, and why is it the small child?
It's definitely not the small child.
Not the small
More
child.
like the pregnant woman.
The pregnant
Oh,
woman
that's
was
even
also
better.
my pick. It was either her or the baseball chick, but I think she looked kind of funky, so I'm definitely gonna go with the pregnant
okay.
chick. Yeah.
Wow.
Hot take.
So, Train to Busan is a 2016 South Korean action horror thriller by director Sang-ho Yeon. So this is a movie that a surprising amount of people here in the States have seen and that they enjoy. Every time like I mention Train to Busan or like I watched it or I liked it, somebody is like, "Oh my goodness, I love that movie."
That's
And it's
mainstream.
really weird. It's really
Netflix
weird
promoted that a lot.
because
I think that's why.
yeah,
It was
it's
it was a
it
featured movie for a while. Netflix was proud of it, and everybody
mhm,
watched it. I think, and Americans love zombie movies. Zombie
yeah,
movies are easy to follow. It's easy to translate. Like what we were talking about before, where the themes are different. There was no
yeah,
themes here that was like strange to an American audience. It was all pretty much
yeah,
linear and the same as a normal zombie movie. It was just in a different language.
mhm,
I think the only themes that were a little bit different were how we deal with like the cultural aspects of like how they deal with the elderly and stuff like that. But even that was
mhm,
just like from an outside perspective, wasn't so jarring that it brought me out of the movie. It was still just a zombie movie that happened to be in Korean.
mhm. Yeah, I think I really enjoy this movie. They are making a sequel that's in pre-production right
Ooh.
now.
Yeah.
That supposedly gets a little darker than the original. Um,
Mm.
we'll see
Yeah, because I
what
felt like this
happens with
one,
that.
I mean, some sad stuff happened, but it was not depressing. It was like, yeah, I mean, that sucks, but let's get on to the happy ending. And then we got to the happy ending, and it was like,
Yeah,
yay.
like you kind of like, oh yeah, this death happened, and it's
Mm-hmm.
yada 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 kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I picked this because I don't know. I think this was one of the first actual like Korean wave films to come out that a lot of people know about.
Mm-hmm.
And for in all honesty, the story and like when you're actually watching the movie, the story isn't anything, grandiose or anything like
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that. It's a zombie movie. It starts out with kind of the same themes of uh, you know, we're gonna go into spoiler territory here, but it starts out as uh finding, you get your hint of something's wrong when the truck driver hits a deer and
Mm-hmm.
the deer comes back to life. And then it cuts to the city and you're like, oh, something's going on.
Yeah.
Like it's that theme of, or that starting out of, oh, something's wrong. And we see
Symbolism,
that
if you
in,
will.
I guess if you can call it
I think
symbolism,
it's
like it's not
foreshadowing, but
yeah, it's not much symbolism. It's more of like a slap in the face of
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
hey, zombies kind of thing.
Something's going on,
Um,
and here
it's
we
like
go.
it's like more of like the start of a Day of the Dead or like Dawn of the Dead or
Mhm.
Night of the Living
Yeah, it
Dead
follows the same formula.
kind of thing.
It's very.
Which I mean isn't bad. You have to
Mm-hmm.
set up something, for
Mhm.
the audience. And a lot of like zombie movies like that have to set that kind of thing up.
Yeah.
Um, with that being said, though, there aren't a whole lot of Korean zombie movies.
Yeah.
Uh, like if we look here, obviously we have like Dawn, Day, Night of the Dead, Living Dead, Return of the Dead, all that kind of garbage. The Walking
Whoa.
Dead, like we
Hot
have all
take.
that stuff.
Mhm.
Hot
Mm-hmm.
take. Uh, and in South Korea, there isn't anything like that. There's still like the concept of zombies and stuff, but I think what they went for in this movie was actually pretty good from just like a setting up of an original story. And the main reason why I think that, even though I don't think the story is great, I think the setting is what is kind of what propels the story
Literally.
forward a little.
Like literally on a train, it
Yeah,
propels
yeah.
forward.
The it's
Am I
it's
wrong?
like
Am I
it's
wrong?
like you're not wrong. It's like snakes on a plane, but
Yep.
it's South Korean zombies on a train. Like
And
Yeah.
it's good.
it's and it's good. It's
Yeah.
All these
it's hot
motherfucking
take.
zombies on my
It's
motherfucking
good.
train.
Like the imagining of just being stuck on something that
Mm-hmm.
is, and then there's not really any easy way to get out. but then there's just this force that is like deathly to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just kind of
Yeah.
stuck there.
Enclosed
I
on
thought
both
that
ends,
was
kind
It's
of.
weird when I
Yeah.
watched that. I never felt like trapped. Like when you watch something else like that, you kind of feel like claustrophobic. Like, oh, I'm stuck on a train. Like the entire time, I
Yeah.
was like, because they always transition to a new cabin. There was always that next
Yeah.
safety cabin, and they only really got to the point where that they're at that last cabin. But even then,
Yeah.
there was that backup cabin that the main characters were in, where they were all safe. So I never got to the point where they were like, "Oh no, this is it! Like this is the last like
Yeah, this is the
refuge. Like
last.
they're trapped." They always just like kept going on to safety. So I never felt like
Mm-hmm.
they were
Yeah.
ever gonna die.
I think it's not so much for the audience to feel trapped. It's more of like to feel that for like you're feeling that for the characters. I think with the setting, I like it. It's not like the setting for The Descent, if any of you have seen
Yeah.
that,
I think I've seen that.
where the characters are stuck in a cave. It's not anything like that because in The Descent they specifically work with that setting
Mm-hmm.
to make even the audience feel just like stuck
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
in this cave along with the characters. In this movie, I think it's more of us outwardly looking at the characters and being like, okay, they're stuck in this train,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and even when they get off the train, they realize that they have to just get right back onto it because they're stuck either way.
They're
Mhm.
traveling. I feel like it's more about the
Yeah.
travel than being stuck on a train. It was like getting from point A to point B to get to safety.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of, I guess, comparing it with The Descent. How that was more filmed too was the camera is very much enclosed with the characters
Mm-hmm.
on those. Where in this one's there are like slight shots where it's filmed, like in some of the not battle sequences, but where they're
there's
transitioning
battle.
from train to train. It's like
Yeah.
some of them are filmed from outside of the train to add.
Yeah,
balance.
so it feels more open,
Mhm.
and it doesn't help that the windows on the train are open too, so you can see like the big
Yeah.
expanse of like freedom. Like it's only that far away. Like it's never out of grasp where you could just jump out of the
Mhm.
train. You know.
Yeah.
You see the background constantly, whereas the
Mhm.
Descent, it's
You're literally
dark,
closed in.
enclosed, and the
Mhm.
camera. It's just a good way.
There
of
was a
filming.
scene or two like that though, where like they were stuck in the bathroom and it was locked and there's zombies outside. That's where I was like, okay, we're kind of trapped here, but yeah, it wasn't the
Mhm.
whole movie.
Mhm. No, yeah,
I don't know. I just think the setting is kind of the
it's the most unique part about this.
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, just like thinking about it, like we don't really have anything like this
No,
here where it's like a train taking you places, except on maybe the East Coast. But
Mhm.
Yeah, we just don't have a lot of train
like
infrastructure here. Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that the train setting and like the entire idea of that kind of propelled the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of didn't really
Mhm.
carry the story,
It
but
kept it going.
it definitely helped it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because if you really like take a deep dive into the story,
There's nothing.
yeah, there are some things where, oh, he's divorced from his wife and his
Mhm.
daughter doesn't really, like him that much
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And like, okay, that's not really super complex or anything like that. And then we also, with some of those, we don't get to explore any of those story elements any further because they don't expound on them going through the entire movie.
Mhm.
And so it's more of just like, okay, we got these people, they're on a train and they're zombies and they're trying to survive. And yeah, that's
It felt
about
more
it.
like a video game where like they were trying to quickly explain the backstory of the badass characters who were going to fight a zombie,
Mhm.
especially
Mhm.
with the big crime boss like guy that was married to the pregnant
Oh,
chick.
yeah, the
It
big
felt
guy.
more like he was just like getting his backstory explained so we knew why he was so strong than it was like more of like why she cared about his
Mhm.
death, Like it wasn't
Well,
about emotional
even
attachment, it
then,
was more about just seeing how badass he was.
we barely even get that. It's like, oh, he's this strong guy and his wife's pregnant. Like that's basically the extent
Of his
of what we
character.
get.
Yeah.
And I mean, we we get the same thing in Snakes on a Plane. Like, I don't know.
I feel like, and I want to talk about that too, because I feel like that's like the writing in this is almost like, I know it's like you were talking about. It's almost too easy, because it's like literally being, you're on a train, you're going from point A to point B. The rest of it is just backstory of the characters that are stuck here. Like the story, it almost writes itself. Like he needs to be on this train for some plot reason, and then he gets on the train, gets propelled forward. The only real twist to the story is that they have to transition from train to train, and then it's the same thing. You're on the train, you go to some other place, and then the rest of it's just bad things happening that the heroes have to overcome. The writing is almost like super simple. It was just filling in something that would entertain the audience.
It's very
I
much...
feel without the good CGI and without the good Korean acting and without the way it was filmed, I don't think this would be that good. Like if this was filmed in America, I think it would be pretty awful. I think the reason it's so good is because Koreans focus more on, like, I don't know, like the drama, like the intercharacter drama was really good. Where if this was filmed in America, it would be a really campy. It would be like Snakes on a Plane.
Well, and that's
but on a train.
This plot and characters itself is very B movie, like 70s, 80s campy horror movie esque. And it just relies on pretty much the acting and then the setting itself with zombies on a train to push it forward. Some parts vaguely remind me of The Mist, when it's essentially just a bunch of stereotypical characters locked in one area. The Mist goes into it a lot more detail, but just seeing how they all interact with each other.
Yeah, that was a big thing too. I feel like it was like The Mist went like really in depth of like, okay, we're trapped. Like, how are we going to deal with survival? Who lives? Who dies? That was more of like,
this one focuses.
I feel like
more on
that's what would happen once Train to Busan got to that settlement, and they were like, this is where we're living. Here's the military. Like, here's the interpersonal relationships. Like, who's going to survive? Who's the leader? Blah 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 blah. That's a cool part of it, and I like that. But I forgot where I was going with that.
It focuses instead of more on character dialogue, it's more with the action set piece of having zombies there to drive it forward, which it does really well. The scenes where they're actually running through the train, having to fight zombies essentially and sneak through, it's filmed, I think, really well.
Yeah. Do you think this movie is very campy if we were in the Korean culture? Because I feel like to us it's not from the outside, but maybe for them it's like, because I feel like the acting in the drama is very similar to like a K drama almost. So I wonder if they're so used to it that it's like, this is just another campy horror movie. But to us it's like, okay, because we're not used to the way that Korean movies do acting and do action and do the drama.
Yeah, with that, this was a very big movie in Korea. Like, this was... I'm trying to like find a comparison to something that came out here that might be sort of the same context. Okay. But yeah, this was a very big release.
Oh yeah, and I think, sorry to
interrupt you. Looking at the cast, the cast is a lot of actors who have worked in K-dramas and stuff like that, but that's just what it is over there, where the actor pool shifts over a lot. But yeah, this was a very big release in South Korea, and this really, looking at movies like this, it's not really in the sense of, oh, this is a campy movie kind of thing. This was more of like, this was our summer blockbuster kind of thing.
Okay, so it's more like a Transformers than like a campy horror for them.
Yeah, kind of more like a Transformers, but somewhat good kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, with this, there's a lot of people when they see this, they think, oh, this is the not necessarily the revival of the zombie horror genre. This is more of, hey, we've now made an original zombie film storyline.
Okay.
Or something to go off of. Which, I mean, in all honesty, yeah, I guess, we've seen other movies like Dawn of the Dead where, oh, they're trapped in a mall, or like Night of the Living Dead where it's like, oh, we're trapped in this like town and stuff like that. It's always really weird with zombie movies where it's like, oh, we're trapped somewhere.
You have to be trapped. I mean, even in Train to Busan, you're trapped somewhere because otherwise, if you
Yeah.
can just run away from a zombie, you're good.
Yeah.
The scary part about zombies is that you can't run away. You're being overwhelmed.
You're stuck.
I do kind of like how they dealt with that. Is it was a progressional wave by wave of getting overwhelmed. So they would deal with one sequence where they got like rushed initially with the baseball players, and then one of my favorites was how they dealt with the all dark where they couldn't see, and like the little girl had to crawl across like the high rise or whatever. I just like how they were able to deal with the sequential being overwhelmed really, really well. Where in a normal movie like Shaun of the Dead or like Dawn of the Dead or whatever, it's like a constant thing, and the only time you ever have to deal with that is when they go from like building to building, and then you have to deal with like how they're getting from building to building and stuff like that. Where this it simplified it so much where you didn't get bogged down with like how are we going to do this. It just kind of removed it from the equation. That way you could just focus on like going from one train to the next, and then how you're dealing with like the people and who's getting where. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think about? Are we gonna get some more Korean blockbusters over here? Because I want to talk about how Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu are bringing us more foreign films to the American audiences. Do you think we're gonna get some more stuff like this, or was this just a one-off? Like, yeah, one hit wonder. They did really well with this one. I don't think we're gonna see any like Korean dramas really hit the American market or anything like that.
Well, already on a lower version than this, since obviously Train to Busan's very actiony. Parasite, I think, just released in theaters in LA.
I've only ever heard about that from you two. I don't know if anybody else knows about that.
Yeah, like with Parasite. So obviously, some movie theaters, they release a lot of foreign films. We already know that. It's more of like the area. So LA, obviously, they have they have K-Town in LA. So yeah, I would, maybe expect one draft house movie theater might have Parasite. Or might have released Train to Busan.
I'm not gonna see it in like a small town, Madison.
Yeah, we're not gonna see it, in our cinema.
I'm gonna have to go watch it online. I think.
Do you think we would even get a Train to Busan? Though I think the only reason why that is so popular is because it's
like that's what I was talking about with the new Netflix media thing.
I think with the distribution of these movies, that's why they're so big now. And with these, Train to Busan is on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it was like one of their releases that they had on a main page. When I would load up Netflix on my PlayStation, it'd be like one of the featured movies and that they would show was, oh, new release Train to Busan, and they had like a whole thing about it. So I think with that sort of distribution method, I think we're going to see a lot more foreign films be featured that way. And I think we're going to see a lot more foreign blockbusters be like, hey, this month, Train to Busan or like Netflix has Parasite, like that's what we're showing. And with that, I really hope that some distributor, whether it be Netflix or Amazon Prime, picks up Parasite. I don't know if they will or not. That's an entirely different business sort of model. But there are a million different ways to watch these movies. And get a hold of these movies. So I'm not too worried about it. But I do think Netflix especially has been like a huge player recently with releasing foreign content. Surprisingly, Amazon has been doing it a long time.
Really?
Like their foreign catalog for the United States is actually pretty good in the sense of the amount of content the type of content isn't fantastic, but that's a different story. But how Netflix worked is it was Netflix is region locked. And
Mm.
so it like here in the United States, we're going to get specific movies that they have
That
licensed
cater
out
to the
into
American
the
public a
United
lot, yeah.
States.
Mm.
It's not necessarily catered, it's more of licensed here.
Well, yeah, I know, but as a
And
business
so
standpoint, when you're regional
yeah,
like
and
that,
as
you
a
only want
business,
to bring in stuff that people are gonna like here.
yeah. And so they're changing that a little bit more and stuff with, people using VPNs to get around it and things
Hmm.
like that is kind of changing that. And they're changing their model a little bit where they are releasing a lot more foreign content and a lot more foreign made movies to an American audience. I mean, like the United States audience is their biggest user base, and they're releasing a lot more of these foreign films, and they're also making these foreign films. Have I know Cole, we watched this a little bit. I don't know if you finished it, but Kingdom,
Hmm.
that's a Netflix original series
Yeah,
that is highly promoted.
and
And there's
I
another
would
one,
love
and
to see how the American audience liked that. I want to see the numbers on like how much we as an American people like love to watch foreign K dramas because I know they're good. I know
mhm,
they're good over there. They get good reception. I just
yeah,
I think what holds them back a lot is people don't like reading when they watch stuff. It
yeah,
kind of draws away from like the facial expressions, like your eyes are drawn to the bottom of the screen, stuff like that.
hmm,
So even like as good as Kingdom was, I wonder how well it did with the average Joe because I liked it.
yeah,
I didn't finish it, but that's just because I forgot to watch it. But
yeah,
I thought it was good. I don't know how the average American would like it though, and that's why I wonder like if they have the next big blockbuster because Train to Busan was easy to follow. The story was simple. The action was really cool. The CGI was great. It was easy to digest for the average American, so it did really well over here. Netflix brought it in; they knew that. But I'm wondering like if you get stuff like I Saw the Devil or like whatever, where it's
hmm,
more focused on what the Koreans are really good at, which is the drama and like the acting and the interpersonal and the writing and like the unique way that they do that. I'm not
yeah.
sure the American public is going to like that for like their next big blockbuster.
hmm
You know.
I think it's really hard. You bring a really good point where when you're watching a drama or a movie that you really enjoy based on the acting and the writing, you don't necessarily want to be looking at subtitles all the time because you want to be focusing more on the actual film
Mm-hmm.
itself. Like you want to be looking at the actors and things like that. You don't want to be looking at words on the bottom of the screen. And uh, it's hard for people to get used to that a lot. Um, Usually when I'm watching a movie, and this is more not for new releases because I know here in the United States I'm not gonna be able to go to a movie theater most likely and see a brand new release of Parasite, for example. I'm not gonna be able to do that. So however you get your movies and however you access your movies, I can there's always a chance for me to rewatch something.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a chance for me to be able to rewatch A Train to Busan.
Mm-hmm.
There's always in the future going to be a chance for me to rewatch Parasite. There's always going to be a chance for me to rewatch, I Saw the Devil or Man from Nowhere kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so if I missed something, then I might be able to recatch it or catch it on that rewatch
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't like rewatching movies for some
I was gonna
reason.
say that I don't
I
think the
really
average
like
person does it.
rewatching
I think
movies.
that's if you like movies and you like
Yeah.
watching movies, that's what you do. But the average American probably watch something once, they talk about it with their friends, and they move on to the next
hmm
hot piece.
See, but I don't think so because then you have so many people rewatching the same TV show and movies several times.
Hmm. But that's only
I
usually with one. What you guys do is you guys watch a movie, you watch that movie 6 times, then you move on to the next bit, you watch that movie 6 times till you really digest it. The average
I
person
I
doesn't do that. The average person
think
watches something
that's
once and they
more-
find like The Office and they watch only
Yeah.
The Office forever. That's like their show.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I think that's more with like I watch foreign movies a lot more and will most likely rewatch them because I know I'm missing something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With a movie made here that's in all English,
That's true. You would have no reason to.
I know I'm probably not missing something unless it's, 200 IQ writing.
Like you
kind of
really
thing,
have to
and-
go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
And so and I mean a lot of people do like rewatching stuff. Like people will watch The Office and Friends,
Mhm.
a million times over and over again. And, I mean, I've watched Lord of the Rings countless of times, Star Wars countless of times, all these movies a million times over. But it's
So if the drama is good enough, you think the American audience would give it another try and enjoy it just for looking at what they missed? Like if they wanted to see like how that person reacted the second time around, they could just hit the back 10 seconds button and then rewatch their face and not read it. Maybe.
I mean, they don't necessarily have to just like rewind back 10 seconds. You can watch a whole movie, and maybe go back to it a couple days later. Like I'm not saying you have to watch something on this for this 10 seconds I'm
Yeah, they're not
reading
maybe
the
going to
words.
very much
And
analyze it
then
to that point.
and then rewind, and now
Yeah.
instead of reading the words, I'm
Mhm.
just gonna watch the actors' faces.
Yeah.
I don't think that's like a smart way to do it. I think more along the lines of, oh, I watched this movie and I don't know what the problem is with people I mean, some people just aren't great at reading in general, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never had a problem with reading the subtitles.
Well, we're
and
used to
then,
it, right? Because we
and
grew up
then
and we watched anime
seeing
and
like
stuff.
what's going on and stuff like that. And I mean,
You have to. It's kind of a
obviously,
practice. So if you're watching a subtitled movie, you've never seen one before, your eyes are going to be stuck to
yeah,
the bottom. To
yeah,
where like
it
we're
is.
used to, we read it fast and then we look up as they say it. Like we know what they're
Yeah.
saying. Now we're capturing what their reactions are, their emotions, and then the next line pops
Yeah.
up. We go down, we speed read it. They say it, we can watch it.
Yeah.
But like the average
And I
American is just going to be
think-
like looking down.
I think specifically with movies that have good acting,
Ooh,
I
yeah.
don't think that's as much of a problem
Mhm.
as movies that don't have as great acting. Mainly because the actors, even if it is in a foreign language, the acting is at a point to where do you really need the dialogue in a drama? Yeah, you probably will want to pay attention to the dialogue.
But like an action movie like Train to
But
Busan.
yeah, but in this case, this is a horror thriller action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I really need to hear them yell like "get away from the door"? Like, do I really need to understand that to get the full experience of the movie? No. Will I
Okay.
probably want to pay attention to the dialogue in slower paced parts of the movie? Maybe. Yeah, that might be a smart idea for me to do. But when they're running around, hitting zombies over the head with a bat,
Mm-hmm.
yelling for them to get back to the train, do I
Yeah.
really need to be paying attention to the
And
subtitles
I think that's
at the
why
bottom of the
that's why it
screen?
did so well
Probably
here.
not.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I mean, it did well here because it could translate over that action to be like, wow, I could see George Clooney running away with his daughter to get back on a train from zombies, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
It was almost like the story. I
And-
feel like I could have watched that movie with no subtitles and with no dialogue, and I could have got what was going on pretty well. I think, and I think that's
Probably,
why it
yeah.
translated so well.
Mhm.
And I think if
I-
they keep making movies like that, it'd be really well or do really well. I just don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think the really good ones where it focuses on the drama. I don't think those are
Yeah.
going to come over here anytime soon.
Yeah, I could not.
I think
see
eventually, if they keep getting these blockbusters, they could like slowly condition us to be like more and more dialogue, more and more in depth stuff. And I
Mhm.
think eventually the American public's gonna get used to that, and we're gonna see some more stuff like that. But right now, I don't think we're
I
gonna.
think,
Well, just
yeah, maybe. And with that, in Korea, movies have to have subtitles.
Hmm.
They have to have even Korean subtitles. They
That's
have
good.
to
That's
have
good though.
those
That's
in the movies.
accessibility. You know, I think we should do
And
that
it is
here.
an accessibility, and we don't do that here, and so people aren't used to
That's a
having
really good point.
words on the screen unless they're specifically put
It's
there
almost
in the movie.
it's seen as a downside
Mhm.
a lot of the time. And to be honest, like when I download a movie, if I like buy it or purchase it, I like the option of removing subtitles, but I like
Mhm.
having the option to have it on there. Sometimes even if it's an English movie, I'll put subtitles on just because if I misheard what they said, I like to be able to read for sure. Okay, this is what they're saying because I don't want to miss a certain part of the plot. I think it's just good to have subtitles anyway. I think we should definitely
Yeah.
transition to doing that.
I just don't think the common moviegoer is gonna even care. Because
Yeah.
when you look at it,
The only reason they would,
the reason this did so well was this is, in my mind, it's so easily accessible when it's on Netflix. Two,
Yep.
the story being very stereotypical, basic plot driven, but having these action set pieces and that it's very blockbustery, which is what people usually go for. It's kind of like the difference why the like It movies, as I liked the first one, but as I mean pretty much they're blockbuster horror. That one's just done well compared to like The Witch, Hereditary, and the newer ones that are more niche and just like descript why critics
the ones
like
that
them.
focus more on the dialogue and
Exactly.
the drama, I would say.
There's a reason why those do so well when critics release it compared to when they get massively released to audience. Like the one I remember was Mother, which I didn't even like, but it was marketed as a horror movie. And then when it came out, if either of you have seen that movie, it's
which one?
Mother.
Which movie?
The
Mother.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. One, I guess that was just poor marketing, but on these, it's just not what the common moviegoer is going to want to see. Whereas Train to Busan, I think, did it perfectly in a way that it's, I think anyone can watch it and still be a foreign film that people can get out of and then just move on with it, pretty much. It's not a movie I return to often because it's easily forgettable. Just some of the scenes I remember.
If I needed something to put on, I wanted to seem like I was a little bit 500, like maybe not 500 IQ, but like if I brought a girl over and I want to seem kind of smart, but I also wanted to be easy to follow, that's what I would put on instead of like a Transformers movie. Okay, where it's a little bit more high class than that. I feel because that foreign movie
Makes
feel.
sense.
Yeah, overall great movie though.
Like with this, I think this is one of the most, and I mean this will be a theme throughout some of my picks, but this is probably one of the most accessible Korean movies out there.
Easily.
That is readily available for like here in the United States. I probably wouldn't introduce somebody to Korean movies starting out with like Old Boy or I Saw the Devil, unless I knew for sure that they were like, oh yeah, like I'm on board with foreign cinema. I probably wouldn't give them something like that.
Well, even the
and I'd probably be like, yeah, watch Train to Busan and see how you think of it. And I wouldn't give them something and this would be with any foreign language. I wouldn't give them a movie that is so complex and then expect them to get the full 100% enjoyment out of the movie kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that's the same thing with any of my foreign friends. I wouldn't give them. I might give them like
Dog Soldiers,
Lord of the Dog Soldiers or Lord of the Rings or like Star Wars, something that's not super complex but we still all enjoy and would be able to understand. I wouldn't give them something like
Something hard
Sindoc, New
to
York.
digest. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't give them anything that would, you know, that one confuses audiences in the language that it's made for, and two, like, might just they might not just get the full meaning, especially from a translation standpoint. So it's more of like, this is kind of like the starter Pokemon of Korean movies. Like, this is your Charmander, and then you can move on to like your Lugia of going into Old Boy eventually.
Yeah.
But
Even the end.
like, start out with these kind of movies, and even I like your point that you're bringing up with the ending.
Yeah, I was gonna say
maybe
the ending is
if you're thinking
extremely
about
Americanized to me compared to, I mean, all the other ones. Korean endings are usually very.
They leave it to the audience.
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
with that. See with that, I think the ending's very Korean.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very Korean. So, in a lot of Korean like dramas and stuff, it's very like melancholy endings.
Yeah.
Like, there's not like a oh yay happy ending kind of thing. Like, there's sort
Well, I
of,
guess
but
I
then
count
it's
this as
also
a
like
happy
It's
oh
ending.
that's
bittersweet.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I mean, at the end, the main character dies, and you're just left with the pregnant woman and his daughter, and they might get just gunned down in this tunnel.
Mhm.
And no, like, that's the sad part is like, oh, our main character died.
But he
That,
died for a good
trying to
reason.
like right at the end, and he died to like the shittiest character in the entire story, and that really sucks. And then it was, oh no, they might get killed for no reason and stuff like that. And then at the end, it was like, oh, okay, they're safe. That was kind of
Mhm.
a very sweet ending. The same thing with a movie that we watched in North Carolina, Man from Nowhere. Like, yeah, he saved the girl, but her mom's dead. The
Yeah.
guy's going to prison. Like, okay, that kind of sucks. Old Boy is the same way, where it's like, oh, he fucked his daughter, and he's going crazy because of it. So what does he do? He wipes his and her memory of everything that happened, and so they never knew that each other existed. And so it's like, and even another example is The Wailing. I know that some of you guys watched that earlier this last summer, where our main character dies, gets murdered by his daughter. The mother dies, gets murdered by his daughter. The priest dies, he gets murdered by the demon devil guy. The monk we saw the whole time was, and this is an inference that some people think, I think it's true, but was working with the demon guy the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very like not good kind of thing. I think if that movie happened in the United States and was made in the
That
United
would not
States,
do
it'd be
well.
like
It would never
the
sell.
hero dad was able to fight the devil and killed the devil, and was able to find out that the monk was evil
Thing is,
and
we
saved
know
his daughter.
we
And
know what
maybe the biggest
sells
thing would
here.
be the mom dies. That would be the biggest. That would be the saddest plot point. Is like, oh, the mom is killed before the dad could save the daughter, but in the end, they both live and stuff like that, kind of thing.
I guess to
and
that point, the only thing because with Train to Busan, it feels to me more almost like to me, I feel like it's the happiest out of all of them, because one, yeah, the dad dies, but he dies protecting his child and then the pregnant lady. And then to me, the first time I watched it after watching like Old Boy and I Saw the Devil, I was expecting the army guys to just pop the child and the mom, and that's how it would have ended to me. And that to me was what I see as all the other ones that you like. The Wailing to me is very, I guess, bleak and dour. Same with Old Boy, because yeah, they're still alive, but everything about that to me is very just.
Mm-hmm.
1 second.
Yeah. The Wailing would be a good one for another time, though, because that's something that we can really bite our teeth into.
I actually really want to rewatch The Wailing.
If we're all game to rewatch The Wailing, because that was actually one that I've been very much wanting to rewatch. That, and since we've been talking about it so much, I Saw the Devil. I haven't seen in a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. And that one's very much, I think, my favorite out of all of them that I've seen for Korean-wise.
With that, like, that's the reason why I think that this movie is really accessible, is because, I mean, like, the whole story is something that's like, oh yeah, like, I could understand that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I feel like if the ending was the same amount of bleakness as something like I Saw the Devil or Old Boy, it wouldn't be the movie that, American audiences like.
Oh,
it.
exactly.
I think it's a happy medium between what we enjoy and what they enjoy.
The ending sucked, and so the entire movie sucked. No, I think it's to a point where it's like, oh, like, I can think about that and I can reflect on the rest of the movie because of the actions of the characters based on the ending, but it's still like, oh, the daughter still survived, and the characters, most of the characters who I was rooting for lived, and so that's still good.
No, I agree with you there.
Kind of thing.
I think it's...
And so it's like, all right, there's still that. I mean, Cole mentioned it's like a happy medium. I think that's kind of the point that you have to like tiptoe with, especially with foreign movies, is there's certain expectations here in the United States of like what happens in a drama, and either all of your characters die or none of your characters die, kind of thing. And in a lot of foreign films, some of those expectations get sort of mumbled up and jumbled up because, I mean, it's their cultural expectations, there's all these different things. And so a lot of films, if they want to do well in other countries, they kind of sometimes have to tiptoe that line. And I mean, there's a reason why you may hear about A Train to Busan from what is like an average audience member of a movie more than something like Old Boy or I Saw the Devil. You'll probably only hear those be mentioned as like good foreign movies that someone has seen based solely on the fact that they probably enjoy foreign media more, or B, they are just more inclined to consume that sort of thing because they're not really turned off by some of those differences in expectations in movies.
I agree. So we're at the kind of past an hour point. Do you want to start talking about what we want to watch next and do our closing, or do we want to keep talking about this? I feel like we could go on for a little while, or we could just close it up at an hour.
If we all want to do our closing impressions and if we want to do ratings on movies, we could do that now for Train to Busan.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, you want to start off, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, so I like Korean movies to begin with. Like, I don't know, I like this movie a lot. I think I show this movie to a lot of my friends, and they seem to enjoy it. This is an exciting time for foreign media to be introduced in the United States, and especially Korean stuff, because we're still on this what's known as like this Korean wave, where there's a big influx of Korean media in the United States.
Very much so.
And I mean, if they keep making quality stuff, I mean, the consumer is going to consume this content. And so if they're making quality stuff, then I'm all for it. I give Train to Busan a 7 out of 10. I mean, it's a good movie. Is it a good horror movie? Probably not. I wasn't necessarily like scared watching it or horrified watching it, but I do know a Korean audience definitely would be. And so, yeah, I mean, 7 out of 10.
Yeah. Cole?
Um, I wouldn't say I'm a huge foreign movie nut, but I wouldn't say I'm opposed to them. I'm used to watching stuff with subtitles, and I'm used to watching stuff very similar to that. Usually like anime and stuff like that, where I have to read the subtitles and kind of see what's going on. So it wasn't too jarring for me. I do think the plot was super simple. The action was really good. The CGI was really good. I liked the. It was. I feel like it's a really good introduction to Korean films, and I'm super excited about what's coming next. I hope they start doing superhero stuff. That'd be really cool for me. I want to see how they do that because it's big over here, and I think they see that's big over here. I think they see how big Marvel's doing, and I think even they see DC trying it out. I hope they start doing that. I would love to see that. Um, Other than that, though, honestly, I think I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10, just because I'd say it's just watchable from the American audience perspective. I think it did really well, but I think it's on the same level as Transformers. I don't think it's going to be, other than the fact that it's introducing Korean movies to the American audience. I don't think it was game changing at all when it comes to plot or storyline or anything like that.
Mhm.
The acting was really good though, which really brought it up. So if you really wanted to like rewatch and go into it, I think if the writing was more in depth, it would take away from the easy plot line and stuff like that. So otherwise, it was easily digestible, and I liked it.
Yeah.
It was good.
To me, it just feels like a very almost like schlocky B movie that actually had a good budget, because some of the set pieces are pretty good to look at. I think of the and one of the end sequences where the train cars are pretty much destroyed and it's the 4 people underneath them. I think that set piece is actually very cool. Other than that, it's very, pretty straightforward with just most set piece. CGI is pretty dated at some points to me. Minor blending with the zombies, it actually looked pretty good at some points, but the explosion CGIs looked very dated and just didn't hold up well after a second watching. The opening sequence from the child's point of view, where there's no soundtrack and all the noise is pretty much diegetic, it was interesting and kind of suspenseful, but other than that, it's very much fast-paced action-y almost in a lot of ways, but it's enjoyable. A bunch of stereotypical characters that are well acted, and good cinematography and all that. I would probably rate it like 6.5, I guess, out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's our closer. What are we gonna do next for our movie of the week?
Yeah. I think for my pick, we are going to do the original John Carpenter's Halloween, which
Halloween
Josh
by John
already
Carpenter.
semi lowered, but that's okay.
Yeah, we know what his stance is.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen it. I've never seen any of the Halloween movies, so I'm interested to watch it for the first time and then come back next week and talk about somebody's perspective, first time seeing it.
Perfect.
For my background in movies.
Yeah, this is my favorite horror movie ever made. I think it's a genuine masterpiece in almost any way.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Masterpiece.
But yeah, so that'll be next week. Thank you for listening, and bye.